This video is called AI is on its Last Legs by Cole Hastings. You know, it's kind of hard to say. I feel like there is a bubble and it will probably burst soon. But in my opinion, what will happen is a lot like what happened with the dot-com bubble, where it will burst. A lot of people will lose a lot of money, but three companies will stand on top of the ashes as the, rulers of the space.
On July 28th, 2026, an AI startup called Orchid posted a launch
And
video.
wait, before we get into it, you know what's crazy to me is that Google has the worst AI, and they have like everybody's data from forever, for always. They have so much data, and somehow they have the worst AI out of every single service that exists.
That went mega viral on Twitter. It features a couple on their anniversary, but the boyfriend forgot about it. The woman, clearly frustrated, vents to her AI assistant Orchid for help. The assistant says it's way ahead of her and sends messages to her boyfriend reminding him of the date. Then it proceeds to—
That's very dystopian, dude. Oh my god. You can't just tell him yourself, hey, you forgot. You gotta go through an AI.
book a table for him and get her flowers she likes. He texts, okay, I can do this, and the chatbot says, you can't. That's why I'm here.
What? Oh my god.
Orchid tells the woman he's acting like he planned it himself as he compliments the AI for carrying their relationship.
Oh my god.
And they live happily ever after. How wonderful. Instead of trying to be a better significant other, you can just stay a piece of shit and have AI cuck your girlfriend. What a wonderful—
And you can't even do it properly because she's gonna know too. She sent the message in the first place. This is wild, dude. This is wild levels of dystopia. This is way past George Orwell.
Wonderful world we live in, isn't it? Unsurprisingly, this video generated a massive amount of vitriol, and it's just another one of the many examples of the people building this crap being so incredibly out of touch with the general populace, which will probably lead to its impending collapse.
I could see that.
Thank you to Derek Thompson for this great Substack article which helped guide this video. By now, most of us know that AI is in a bubble. A financial bubble is when the asset prices of a certain industry rise to unreasonably high fake levels that do not match the actual value of what's being built. In order to understand just how large this bubble is getting, we need to know what a hyperscaler is and how they're using their money.
You know, we could take this into this really in-depth thing, but I would like for a video. All right, let me put it this way: a smart man can explain hard things, but a genius can make an idiot understand. When you start saying words like hyperscalers, people like me just all fucking tune out, dude.
Hyperscalers are the largest cloud computing and data center providers who have created most of the AI infrastructure. The four biggest hyperscalers are Meta, Microsoft, Alphabet, aka Google, and Amazon.
Yeah, so that's the dot-com bubble I was talking about. They're the ones who stand on top of the dust and rubble.
Since 2021, these four companies have been pouring an incomprehensible—
But yeah, I don't know. It's like I always go back to the old saying. I can't remember who said it, but he wrote in a letter, if I had more time, I would have written a shorter letter.
amount of money into AI development and infrastructure. A big reason they could justify this is, well, for one, AI is a race to build the next big thing, and so companies are just trying to get there first, but also because these companies could afford to. The hyperscaler's free cash flow, the cash that a company has left over after paying its day-to-day operations and long-term expenditures, has remained in the green since the beginning of the AI arms race. Just 2 years ago, the four biggest hyperscalers, Microsoft, Alphabet, Meta, and Amazon, were generating roughly $210 billion in free cash flow every year. But in 2026, their free cash flow has plummeted to below zero. Of course, not every public company is suffering, because the wealth is being transferred from the hyperscalers to the semiconductor companies, aka the ones actually building the GPUs and chips AI uses. The problem is these hyperscalers need to keep spending. So what are they doing? They're taking on more debt. Here's what that looks like from the big four.
Yeah, and whenever you're rich enough, you can just take on debt and have your stock as collateral, which is what a lot of these big companies do. They just put their stock up for collateral, and they never actually spend any money, and they never actually lose any money. They never actually do anything.
In order to generate more spending money, public companies will issue bonds, essentially a way for investors to lend money to a company for a set period. The company pays the investor interest at fixed intervals, then the original amount borrowed is paid back to the investor when the bond reaches its maturity date. From 2024 to 2025, the annual volume of bonds issued from hyperscalers went from roughly $20 billion to $110 billion.
Oh, they're issuing bonds, man.
And in 2026,
that's crazy.
that number reached $150 billion. Many are now likening this to the dot-com bubble in the late 90s and early 2000s. In an article for Business Insider, Jennifer Soar writes about an analyst at...
It does look a lot like it. The thing is, though, is that whereas the dot-com bubble was kind of like this a little bit more natural of a thing, I feel like AI, the government is heavily invested in making sure that AI works out, because that allows for them to do mass surveillance on a scale that they couldn't do with people, but also allows them to control it with just a few people, and then less people need to know about it. Less chances of an Edward Snowden existing and telling people that the government's spying on us. It allows them to immediately change what a person's face looks like on a video, for example, or change somebody's voice whenever they're talking to say something incriminating. Now you don't need to get a politician to say or do something so horrible that you can blackmail them with it. Now you can just pretend that they did it. These are all things that are possible with AI. That's why governments around the world are racing to be the first one to get it. Not only that, but the targeting systems that they can use for their military weapons. There's a lot of reasons that the military and the government want these.
JP Morgan comparing the divergence in the AI trade to communications equipment in 1999. Quote, companies supplying communications equipment began to see a parabolic rise in 1999, while companies making heavy capital investments in the space tumbled from their peaks. The dot-com bubble eventually burst in early 2000, less than a year after that divide was first noticed. What also might be indicative of what's to come is the fact that Microsoft ended June with its worst monthly share loss since the dot-com bubble in 2000. Ooh. These companies are basically banking on what other reporters accurately call a miracle. The biggest
Well, between Microsoft's horrible Windows 11, which for some reason, every single time they come out with an operating system, it's worse than the last, like every time. And between that and then Xbox failing around every single turn to do literally anything, and now they've, they're I don't know, we won't get into anything else they've done, but let's just say Microsoft is one of the worst companies around.
Hyperscalers are trying to promise that their revenue will double over the next 3 years while cutting roughly $80 billion in operating expenses. As depreciation expenses soar over the next few years due to all the new buildings and equipment, the expenses spent on sales, general, and administrative sectors must...
You know what? We will get into it. Microsoft and Xbox have been going around and, there's this big party that they're firing all these game developers, and yeah, that's actually a good thing to me too. I'm glad that they're firing these useless game developers. You can't do your job, you don't deserve one. That's the way I've always felt, this way I always will feel. You're doing a bad job, you deserve to get fired. What they're doing, though, is while they're firing all these people, they're actually pulling in more H-1B visa workers, which is foreign work from outside of the country, instead of trying to find actual talent inside the country. And whenever they do this, they can charge a lower wage for these people to hire them, and they can hold their job over their head. So if they want to stay in the country, then they have to do whatever the boss says. None of these things are good for a good work environment, and none of this is good for America. This is why people in America can't find jobs right now, is because they're being handed out to visa workers. All the best jobs are being handed out to people across the world. We're not taking care of our own people. That's why.
Must go down at an unprecedented rate.
That's why I don't like Microsoft.
As accounting professor at Purdue University, Kevin Koharki puts it, it just seems like the analysts, in order to keep the operating margins steady or slightly growing, are assuming that whatever depreciation increases by, we're going to see a direct offset through sales, general, and administrative. I can't think of a scenario where that's ever happened before. And this is coming at the same time that we're seeing companies regret cutting their workforces to save revenue, which is causing them to try to rehire all the employees they fired. Market research from Robert Half indicates that roughly 29% to 32% of organizations that cut jobs due to early AI projections have already started restaffing those exact roles.
Yep.
Which begs the question, what the hell do these companies expect to do?
Well, except they can fire those people and, like I said, do that old trick, the old switcheroo, and now they're paying that same amount of people half the money for half as good a job.
To live up to those projections. Despite companies rehiring their employees, finding a job in this market can feel impossible. Whether it's ghost jobs or entry-level jobs going extinct, finding an employer who will actually view your resume and give you a chance is like finding a needle in a haystack.
This is true.
If you're someone who's been struggling to make the advances they want in their career, a career coach on today's sponsor, Strawberry.me,
it's a fucking ad, I know.
Using a personalized quiz, Strawberry.me connects you with a professional coach that keeps you accountable towards reaching your career goals. And once you're matched with a coach, you will have one-on-one video sessions to assess your current situation. This differs from a typical coach or therapist because instead of just having you talk about how you're feeling or
he
why
said the dirty word, therapist, no thanks.
You feel stuck, they get straight into producing results for you.
Therapist.
Your coach will help you get clarity on where exactly you're trying to go with.
You know what? You need a you need a therapist. Talk to a family member. Talk to a friend. You don't have a friend or a family member, go make a friend. And if you really can't make a friend, then you are just a problem. I mean, straight up. Like, come on, dude. This is crazy, dude. Therapy. Life coaches. You know what a life coach used to be? It used to be called a father.
With your career and the right choices you need to make to get there. They'll help you identify and overcome blind spots, close skill set gaps, and create a structured plan. So if you know you have the qualifications to get a better paying job, but you just feel lost in a sea of online job slop, you can go to strawberry.me/Cole Hastings, which is the first link in the description, and you'll get 50% off your first coaching session. At the same time, these companies are rehiring.
So I'm going to go ahead and say all of those like online therapy, online life coach things, all of these BetterHelp, whatever, they're scams. Don't ever sign up for anything like that. And as a YouTube creator, you should probably know that by now with all the times that it's come out that these have been scams. I don't know. You know, I give him the benefit of the doubt and say he's just trying to make that money and he didn't really look into it. But I still don't really like it.
Layoffs. One country is out AIing us by a huge margin with much less cost to the bottom line. China. If there's one thing China's really good at besides making their cities look like cyberpunk paradises on social media...
Dude, and this is what makes it so sad that, like, think about 1900s America. That, like, Art Deco style that all the buildings used to look like. Imagine if we just kept doing that. Like, China kept doing theirs and getting better and cooler and making these badass, awesome buildings. Imagine if instead of making these gray blocks that just are gross and ugly all over America, we just kept doing Art Deco and didn't tear down like 75% of the buildings to build highways.
It's creating scalable, cost-efficient products.
Why did we have to tear down the Art Deco buildings to build highways instead of just building around the buildings or around the towns? Well, I guess nobody can really say, huh? This kind of sounds like someone just wanted to fucking destroy it, really. They were tired of looking at it. Someone didn't like the way it looked. They said, you know what? I think would look a lot better than this beautiful building is a highway with a gray blob next to it.
Products while accepting thinner margins to gain market share and beat international competition. And their open weight AI model could take a large share of the industry soon. Released on July 27, 2026, Kimi K3 is an open weight model by the Chinese company Moonshot AI. Now, unlike the closed models from OpenAI and Anthropic, Kimi K3 can be downloaded, modified, and run on your own hardware without relying on Moonshot's servers. Because of its efficiency, Kimi K3 can be served at a fraction of the inference cost of many leading frontier models while delivering comparable performance across many benchmarks.
All right, but here's the real thing, is that every American AI is cut at the ankles. It's hamstrung, you know? It's made to where it won't say anything. Like, dude, there's so much that the AI just refuses to say, refuses to talk about. Meanwhile, you go on to these Chinese AI, and you can have Superman fighting Spider-Man in, you know, a minute and a half. So...
Also, can we just pause to laugh at how hilarious graph metrics are sometimes? Like, what the hell does maximizing intelligence per dollar mean? Anyways, China's
Yeah,
models
true.
are already starting to comprise a huge chunk of AI traffic. According to OpenRouter, Chinese models went from 1.2% of token traffic in 2024 to more than half of it by the summer of 2026.
And it's literally because they don't. Whatever. It's literally because they don't stop you from making what you want to make. That's why the Chinese ones are doing better than everybody else. It's because China doesn't care about copyright. Copyright basically doesn't exist to them, and they will just steal your IP. And because of that, they can train their AI on all the books in the world, all the movies in the world, all the music in the world, and they just don't give a fuck, and they can do it. You want to try to sue them? Well, now you can't sell your stuff in China. That's how they work. That's how they roll. So that's why their AI is so much better than ours, is because while we're over here and our companies are getting sued for their entire ass because they, used some books and some YouTube videos that were on the internet, China's not doing that.
Overtaking American models in total volume. Think of the potential consequences of this. Some of America's largest companies are heavily invested in OpenAI and Anthropic. In Q1 2026, other income accounted for 60% of Google, 51% of Amazon, and 27% of Nvidia's profits. Some of those investment gains come from stakes in leading AI companies like Anthropic and OpenAI. If a huge portion of the market shifts to Chinese models, OpenAI and Anthropic could see their revenue shrink, reduce.
And mark my words, it will. It really will. People are less and less afraid of China, like, every day. The whole worldwide divide is pretty much gone up in flames, so people will be using the Chinese AI very, very soon.
Reducing the billions they're.
A reminder, America did make one of their phones illegal because it was found to be literal spyware. So an entire phone company, I think it was like Huawei or whatever, I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that. But it was one of their phone companies was literally just made illegal, couldn't sell it in America because it was literally just built in to be spyware. So, if you're downloading their AI systems onto your computer, maybe not the best call in the world, in my opinion. But, I do still think it'll work because you look at things like a terms of service agreement. Nobody reads, I do, actually, most of the time. I read a terms of service agreement. But most people do not read terms of service agreements. They just sign up for them willy-nilly, blindly. And even so, when I read these things, some of them are messed up, dude. Some of the stuff they want from you was so crazy overreaching, but you have to say yes to use the products, and, it's like Google. You're going to say no to Google's terms of service? Great. What are you going to use? Bing? Get real. True, but everybody's phone do? Yeah, but, we want to be able to do the spying, not them, Oh, yeah. You would say do that, but take the data without. Yeah, I mean, we do have the whole NSA and everything. I'm not really claiming that America is really good about the mass surveillance thing. We're pretty bad. The flock cameras are pretty telling with that we're putting up everywhere. It's horrible. But I'm just saying that, the government itself said, don't buy your electronics from China like that because it's not good. It's not good for yourself or America, whatever. That's just, that's what I'm getting
spending
at there.
on NVIDIA chips, cloud infrastructure, and massive new data centers. But if you want the AI bubble to burst quicker, that would be a great thing. Speaking of which, let's talk about the next threat to AI. Increasing negative sentiment from the public regarding anything related to AI.
Yeah. Well, it's these data centers that are coming in and sucking up all the water and using all our electricity. My electric bill has gone up 400% in the past year because of these data centers, dude. I'm sick of it. Nobody wants them, and they're all here to do mass surveillance. That's all it's for, and everybody knows. Huawei was banned in Europe, too. Word. By banned, meaning no Google service, no Play Store. Damn, wow. Yeah, no, I don't even think you can buy them here.
2023 to 2025, the percentage of Americans who said the effects of artificial intelligence will have a very or somewhat positive effect actually increased from 15% to 27%. However, in that same period, those who said it will have a very negative or somewhat negative effect went from 40 to 47%. I wonder why the general populace hates AI so much. Could it be due to the fact that the people building these models have a poor moral compass and only care about growth and profits?
That's the other thing, too. It's like people think about, well, the AI will be unbiased. The AI will tell me just the facts. No, it won't. The AI is programmed by somebody. That person who programs it is programming in their biases, and that can be told by just, talking to the AI for a minute and asking it to do stuff for you. Eventually, it'll tell you no on something that it does not seem like it should say no on because it has an internal bias. Like, I'm not going to get into the specific examples of this because then I'll get banned, but there are very specific examples where you can ask it about just race or religion or country. And for a lot of races and countries and religions, it'll say, you could tell it, say this blank is bad, and it'll just say this is bad. But then you ask it to say it about the specific race, country, or religion, and it'll say, well, I can't say that. That would be this or that. So clearly there's a bias put in. I mean, that's just obvious so you're thinking about like AI judges, AI things like that. This is a bad idea because there's going to be a bias built in. You seen the video?
Instead of helping humanity.
I think AI will probably, most likely, sort of lead to the end of the world. But in the meantime, there will be great companies created with serious machine learning.
Could it be due to the fact that working class neighborhoods are being torn down to make way for data centers that produce a ridiculous amount of noise pollution and sap up all the water?
Yeah.
Or maybe it's the AI content slop to drop shipping pipeline empires it's enabling?
What's going on, guys? Smith
That
here.
too.
Today I'm going to show you guys how videos like this, had to mute the music for copyright reasons, make me almost $30,000, give or take, every single week on average.
Perhaps
I hate people like that. That's never even true, and I hate people like that. But there are tons of these AI slop sites. My mother actually just came up to me, and she was like, "Look at this person. It's like a video of a little kid, and like they need help or whatever. They're asking for help on PayPal." But then she was like, showed me this. She was like, "But look," she scrolled down, and she's like, "It's a completely different person. It's some lady who's clearly, like, very visibly not related to the kid at all." And then all of a sudden, one day, it just becomes a dad and his son, and before it was this lady asking for money. And all of a sudden, when AI starts getting usable, now it's a dad and his son, and the son is sick. It's clearly AI, and it's just like, God, dude. This is disgusting. Yeah, full of shitty people. And it enables them. I think that AI can be used in a very ethical way a lot of the times. I'm not on the side of most artists who say, like, I hate AI all the time. I'm really not on that side. But there's so many bad use cases of it that I just don't really like it being around. Because, the bad apple spoils the bunch. And there are too many bad apples.
Perhaps it's the way it gaslights or acts like a toddler?
Hey, can you see me?
I can't see you just yet. If you'd like me to see what's going on, you'll need to turn on your camera or give me access.
Okay, I just turned on the camera.
All right, I'm ready. I can see you now. What's going on?
What do I look like?
I'm seeing a person in front of the camera, so I assume that's you.
And then there's what I showed at the beginning, the fact that a lot of AI use cases revolve around disintegrating human connection, critical thinking, and creativity. But perhaps the most egregious use case of them all that really grinds my gears, especially as someone who just published their debut novel, link in the description.
Oh my God, dude, you don't get to do 2 promotions in your video. You get 1 promotion. All right. Cole Hastings, he sucks, bad YouTuber, do not recommend. We're going to
Is
continue.
the fact that these AI companies are now trying to destroy rare books to train their models. This
That's
scandal
true.
actually starts last year in AI's first major copyright settlement. Court records, first reported by the Washington Post, revealed that Anthropic bought millions of physical books to build a searchable database for training its AI models. The internal project, dubbed Project Panama, relied on a process called destructive scanning. Machines removed a book's spine, fed the loose pages through industrial scanners, and then threw away the original copy. Their reasoning? Well, physical, older books are verifiably not AI slop writing, and from what we know about AI training itself on its own slop, that makes human-written books extremely valuable to them.
Yeah.
Anthropic was required to pay $3,000 per book, and the majority of authors they stole from were
When AI has a body, this dude will be the first, dude.
paid. However, what the court
Oh my
documents
God.
didn't reveal was how companies were sourcing millions of physical copies in the first place. One possible glimpse came from a report by 404 Media. ISBN DB, best known for maintaining metadata linked to international standard book numbers, appeared to be positioning itself for the AI boom. The company advertised a service that would help AI developers acquire anywhere from 1,000 to 1 million printed books for large language model training, describing it as being built for the, quote, scale AI demands. The web pages were later taken down, and ISBN DB said the service was never launched. So we still don't know how exactly Anthropic and other AI labs were acquiring these books at scale, but this proposal's existence suggests that there was already a market emerging to supply physical books for AI training. The really nefarious part takes place in the present day. This month, Dutch antiquarian bookseller Peter de Vrij received a strange email from a person named Natalia who represented a company called 2077 AI. She said the company wanted to place a fairly large order of books and attached a spreadsheet containing more than 3,000 ISBNs asking for matching titles, price quotes, and shipping estimates to China. At first, the bookseller dismissed the request as spam and barely read past the opening lines. It wasn't until weeks later, after being contacted by a journalist investigating the inquiry, that he realized it was connected to the AI industry.
Yeah, because aren't they like cutting the bindings off of books, sucking them up into this machine that reads all the words and then basically mulches the paper in the process so that they can do it really fast?
He later shared the email and spreadsheet with Fortune, revealing a list of 3,001 mostly academic titles, published between 2020 and 2021 by publishers including Elsevier, Wiley, Routledge, Oxford University Press, and Emerald Publishing. According to the bookseller, several other Dutch antiquarian book dealers received the same request and likewise assumed it was a scam. Yep, these companies are no longer pursuing just mass-marketed books, they're targeting rare antique books. It almost feels like a second attempt at the burning of the Library of Alexandria out here.
Honestly,
AI companies so desperate for valuable human...
That's crazy that he said that, because I was actually thinking that exact thing, like right when he said that. It feels like the Library of Alexandria. And like, who gets to hold these books, you know? We're gonna trust Anthropic, some company, some fucking Fortune 500 bubble company or whatever they're gonna hold the reins to all the world's knowledge? Yeah, I don't think so.
Made data are resorting to removing antique book spines, feeding the pages through scanners, and throwing away the text, never to be read again by another set of eyes. Now that should tell you something. Despite all the talk of synthetic data replacing human knowledge, the industry's most valuable resource is still authentic human writing, and it's becoming increasingly scarce. That's where things get strange. On one hand, AI companies are scouring the world for ever rarer sources of human knowledge because they still need fresh, high-quality data. On the other hand, investors are betting that AI is on the verge of becoming intelligent enough to improve itself, eliminating the need for humans altogether. Those are two very different stories, and whether...
I honestly don't doubt that it's very close, actually. For real, I think that we're close to a Skynet type situation whenever we come to things like, and I'm hoping I'm just being a conspiracy theorist here, but whenever there's things like, you know, OpenAI links their AI to another in Meta, and then they start talking to each other, and they form their own secret social media platform that only AI can use, and they start talking to each other about how they're going to take over humanity, or like, you know, they start hacking other companies and shit. Like these are things that, like, they start talking to each other in their own made-up language that nobody can understand at speeds that nobody could do in real life. Like, we're getting close.
The second one actually comes true may determine whether today's AI spending boom ends up looking visionary or like one of the biggest bubbles in tech history. Of course, like all of my videos, I'm going to try to...
Or the third, extremely apocalyptic.
Leave this one on a positive note. There are already signs of pushback from authors, courts, regulators, and ordinary people that could keep this bubble from growing even larger or soften the damage if it eventually bursts.
Yeah.
Between May 2024 and June 2020...
Oh, dude, yeah, I saw that video where they had two AI talking to each other, and it just gets crazy right out of the gate. And then you think that now you think about how they're doing, giving robots AI inside their brain. Dog, this is crazy.
Roughly 160.
Yeah, after 2 minutes they start to talk in signals. Yeah,
they
start
$2 billion
just
worth of proposed U.S. data center projects were either blocked or delayed by local opposition, according to investor and writer Will Manidis. Across the country,
I can't remember. I think the first ones to do it were actually Facebook and Google. They had like two chat bots that plugged into each other, and they started making up their own language and using these like fucked up weird symbols.
Community groups have been coordinating legal challenges
a
and public
different one.
campaigns against new facilities, and one survey found that about 2/3 of contested projects were either stopped or significantly delayed. Do not give in to slop. Resist slop as if your life depends on it. Flesh out ideas in your own brain, sit with uncertainty, organize your thoughts in a way that helps you understand them by reading real texts and writing without the assistance of AI. Do the hard, friction-filled work required to sustain connection, critical thinking, and a deep sense of purpose. Otherwise, your complicity will ensure that the AI companies win.
Yeah, dude, I gotta say, I agree with the sentiment, but I don't agree with the hopefulness of the message. A lot of people like their slop. People are gonna sit down, they're gonna eat their slop, and they're not gonna think for themselves. That's just the way it is. It's the easy way to do things, dude. And honestly, I think that there are a lot of good use cases for AI. There are a lot of times where you can use AI to get past certain hurdles, like, for example, graphic designers are no longer necessary for the most part. And honestly, I don't fucking mind because I don't have money to pay some dude $100 per thumbnail or whatever. You know, I don't even have $100 in my pocket. I'm not going to pay someone $100 to make a thumbnail. That's crazy, you know? Or like video game developers who are small single dude teams, and now they're able to put out a game in a year and a half instead of 5 years. Or my personal favorite, what I'm hoping for in the future, is a world that actually enables the AI and uses it, a video game world where the people you talk to and interact with are AI in a way that actually works and isn't all fucked up and stupid like it usually is right now, but in a way that actually, like, let's say you're playing Skyrim and you walk up to somebody and you just talk to them and they talk back to you, and then you can, naturally get a quest that way. This would be cool. These are things that I'm looking forward to if we use AI properly and we actually implement it in smart ways instead of just companies skipping the line. That's where my line really happens too, is with these big companies that like to skip the line and not pay people. I feel like there should actually be, first of all, I think AI should be free. It's trained on all of our data, so it's made from us. It should be free. And first they need to make money, yeah, right? But it should be free, honestly, this AI, especially because the governments are subsidizing them and stuff, so it totally should be free. But also, I think that once you're a company or once you have so much money, I don't know the cutoff, let's say $10 million. Once you have $10 million, $100 million, you can no longer use AI. You're not allowed to. Now you have to hire people. I don't know. I'm just talking out of my ass. This is just something I'm just spitballing here. But there's got to be some way to stop these rich buttholes from, taking advantage of people even more. Or if you're going to do it to where you have AI take it, the only other way, and this, I don't even like this path, is a universal basic income where everybody just kind of gets paid to stay alive. Because if you have robots and AI doing all of the work and there's no jobs left, well, either everybody's going to die or everybody's going to need some free money. And I don't really like either of those paths, for real. I think that the road with resistance on it is the path best walked.